legislation, special power?
Well, not in particular. I viewed it my role principally to try to make sure that the interests of the community which I represented were protected in the Alabama State Senate. Senator Wilson and I were 2 of 35 senators. So on our own, we could not pass any legislation, or for that matter, block legislation. For the most part, we were able to influence the course of legislation, and because of our close relationship with the Lieutenant Governor, Jerry Beasley, I was eventually appointed chairman of the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee plays a very important role in the state Senate. It sets, for example, the special order calendar, which decides which bills will be called up for action by the Senate. And in those days, the Senate Rules Committee confirmed or made the recommendation to confirm the various gubernatorial appointments that were made. Governor Wallace and I locked horns after I became chairman of the Rules Committee first over the issue of who should be appointed to the State Board of Pardons and Parole. At that time, 2/3 of the inmates in the state prison system were black, and there had never been a black person appointed to the state parole board, 3-person board. A vacancy occurred, and Governor Wallace sent up the name of one of his friends to be appointed to that board, and we opposed it. We were able to convince the majority of the senators eventually, when the name was reported out by my committee, to vote against the governor's appointment. And when that happened, the governor threw in the towel and appointed Reverend John Porter, who was a representative from the south side of Birmingham, to the Board of Pardons and Parole, the first black ever appointed to that board position, in which he served very honorably and ultimately became chairman of the State Board of Pardons and Parole. We had other issues with the governor, like, for example, when the legislature, at the urging of the black legislators, created separate boards of trustees for the black institutions of higher learning, Alabama State and Alabama A&M universities. Up to that point, they had been under the auspices of the State Board of Education, on which blacks had never served. But when the legislation was created when the legislation passed to create boards of trustees for those schools, Governor Wallace sent up names for those positions, a majority of which were whites. And so, as chairman of the Rules Committee, I would not call up the names for confirmation by the Senate, and ultimately the governor backed down and sent up the name of a black to fill the fifth position on each of those boards, making each of them majority black board. At that time, there were no blacks on any of the white boards of trustees in the state of Alabama. I thought I had turned this off.
Jim, is this a surveillance photo?
No, it's very news photo.
Yeah, what happened there was, well, I think it is. It was.
It looks like somebody's hiding behind something.
What was told to me is that when we were desegregating the library, the Birmingham police had a surveillance camera. We didn't know it at the time. The first time I saw this picture was around 1996. A professor from Santa Clara University Law School in California was studying the civil rights movement, came to interview me, and he said to me, there's a picture of you in the Birmingham Public Library that the Birmingham Police Department took back in 1963. And that's this picture.
You read what you read?
No, I don't.
What do you
that was some fake reading.
How did the staff treat your group when you came?
There was no conversation with us whatsoever. We came in and went to the table and sat down. Yeah. No interaction.
Your nomination and confirmation to the federal court.
The most controversial one is
the
history of Alabama.
What are your memories of that?
Well, in 1978, I guess, Congress passed an omnibus judgeship bill, which, among other things, increased the number of judgeships in the northern district of Alabama, 31 northernmost counties, by 2. And then there was an amendment at the behest of the civil rights movement to increase to 2 to 3 with the idea that one of the 3 vacancies would go to a black. And by that time, having done most of my practice in federal courts, I was well familiar with them and well familiar with the tremendous amount of discretion that's given to federal judges, particularly in civil rights cases. Most of those cases at that time were non-jury cases, and so the judge became the fact finder as well as the decider of law. And so the things that Frank Johnson had done as a federal judge in Montgomery were well known throughout the state. I had more direct contact with a young federal judge here in Birmingham, Sam Pointer.